Not just a 3-0 series win, but improving with every outing. Team India, a couple of efficient run chases. Well, maybe the first one with a few stutters, but the final game, winning the toss, choosing to do, shall we say, the less preferred option, putting a decent amount of runs on the board, and then giving New Zealand no shot at even getting close to that total. All in all, an efficient 3-0 outing for India in the three T20 internationals. This is where they finished with Nelson on the board, dismissed for 111, not managing to bat out their 20 overs. In pursuit of 185 is what Rohit Sharma and India put on, led by his half century of just 31 deliveries. 73 runs, the victory margin at the end. It could have been 80, even 90. Just a few blows at the end from the fast bowlers for New Zealand. Looking back at this game, at the series, and of course, cricket doesn't stop. Test series to come. We'll have a little whisper about that as well on Cricbuzz Live. I'm joined by Ajay Jadeja, Dinesh Karthik. Result was inevitable, gentlemen. Ajay, come to you first. It was just a matter of finishing off and plenty of boxes ticked, including small things like Venkatesh Iyer coming on to bowl, picking up his first wicket. All that matters going ahead for Team India.
Yeah, all that matters. 3-0 up. 3-0 win in the series. Like you said, Venkatesh Iyer got to bowl today as well. Yuzvendra Chahal's back. He's had a good run. Everything that you could think of, or you tried or wanted to do, everything's come right. Because there wasn't an opposition that turned up. I think when the captain left in the morning, ever since then, I didn't see anything special from New Zealand today. They'll certainly be disappointed. I understand it's a long tour for them as well. Maybe some of them have already packed their bags heading back home. So this game was virtually game of numbers, and India weren't tested at any stage except probably at a stage where they were batting. But when they got to that total, there was nothing in that chase, and ever since the Combox, it's only gone downhill.
But even before the Combox, DK, Ajay and I chatted a lot about Rohit's captaincy, his bowling changes. I think right at the top, first couple of overs, you could see New Zealand were coming hard and Guptill looked in Guptill-like form. But just getting Akshar Patel early, Chahal bowled in the power play, and everything just fell into place after that.
Yeah, for me, the key moment came Yuzvendra Chahal's third over. He got hit for 16 runs in the second over. So most captains would refrain from bowling, the bowler who gets hit for 16 runs, especially against a batsman like Guptill who is going well. But to bring him on the next over, give him the courage to say, you toss it up, don't worry, I want his wicket, go for it, is exactly what I was speaking about before. And he fell for the trap as late for him and, got caught at long on. And, it was pretty much done, dusted and sealed at that moment. And for me, that kind of shows you the quality of Rohit's captaincy, the courage to bring the bowler on even after going for runs and tell him that you go for the wicket, it's okay, I back you. And those are the, key moments in the series for me, and pretty much a dream series for the coach and captain to start on.
Yep, especially a new regime beginning, the combination we talked about, what do we expect of them at the start of the first game? I think if you have a look at Rohit's captaincy record now, just adding to it, of course, fully appointed captain now, 22 matches, 18 wins, just the 4 losses, win percentage now going up to 81.81. But really, in some ways, Ajay, he'll look at this as a fresh start. He started as a properly appointed captain of India. He's not interim at the moment anymore. And for the moment, his record as far as things stand is 1-3, lost none.
Yeah, I think you should look at it from the perspective that you said it's a fresh start. What happened in the past was he was filling in for anybody else who was captain. There's a team that runs. The captain has a vision. The coach has a vision. When you are an interim captain, all you are supposed to do is hold the fort together till the main captain comes back and not change too many ways, or don't change the whole setup of how you want to play cricket. You may think differently, but at the end, you are only a vice captain. You are only supposed to do what is asked from you. But now that he's been appointed captain and all the way to the World Cup, this is a fresh start. And you see, Rohit Sharma's signs on this team, like what he did with Venkatesh Iyer today, how he, bowled him, how he brought on Chahal when there were 3 wickets down. So he uses the opportunity. And it doesn't surprise me because, anybody who's watching Indian cricket for a while, IPL especially, he's won 4-5 titles, and that was all 4-5 years ago. In fact, this year is his worst year as a captain. So people who look at numbers might look at that IPL and say, oh, what a bad number. But Rohit Sharma as a captain has always been as good or as bad. It depends on how you look at him. But he's a leader and tried and tested leader. So I wasn't expecting anything new from him. What he's shown us over the last 10 years of leading that side, he's carried on doing that with Indian cricket. And I hope that he's allowed to run the team the way he wants to run.
Yep. And one of his early changes, of course, the turning point, as Dinesh Karthik mentioned, was allowing Yuzvendra Chahal to come in, encouraging him to bowl. And then he got the Guptill wicket, which really was huge, because at one point in time, we were saying India versus Guptill, who's ahead? Because it was a Lone Ranger effort from the New Zealand batsman. But DK, even before that, the back was broken at the top end by Akshar Patel's spell. Yes, they were helped a little bit by the generosity of New Zealand's batsmen and their shot selection. But nonetheless, you've got to be accurate in when bowling the power play.
Oh, definitely. I think, you got to understand that a little bit of due. Obviously, it's not easy for a finger spinner, but Akshar Patel in the last couple of games has shown why he's so good at this level and, making use of the opportunity. Obviously, like the third opener, I think even Akshar Patel's place is always going to come only when Ravindra Jadeja decides not to play on most occasions. So for him to get an opportunity here and do the best, I think he's really done well for himself. And it bodes well for Indian cricket to have a left-arm spinner who's very good in the power play as well. And as usual, he stood up. He's done it for Delhi Capitals time and time again. And here showing why he's been such a good performer for any team in the IPL for a few years now.
Yeah, interesting point there. I mean, we did talk about selection, looking at a possible 15, 16, whatever the squad you take in 2022. And certainly reserve opener is one area. But very clearly, Ajay, you can't look beyond Akshar Patel as your number 2 left-arm spinner. And of course, like your namesake, Akshar Patel also contributes with the bat.
Yeah, he does contribute with the bat, but I think, if I had to just pick bowler between the two of them, maybe Akshar would just win that race, because, Akshar seemed to bowl in all conditions, no matter what kind of wicket. Whereas with Ravindra, we've seen captains, it could be the captains, maybe it's not him, but on certain wickets, he's not used as well, not used at the entirety. Like how Akshar was used today in the third over of the game when the game was running away. You don't use Ravindra in that way. He's more, being used in the last couple of years more as a batsman than as a bowler. I mean, he's a batting, bowling all-rounder. I don't even want to use those words, my friend Sanjay got into trouble with. But that's a big difference between both of them. So it depends on what the captain is looking at. Does he want a bowler who bats, or does he want a batsman who can bowl? So I think if you want to look at both of them, they're pretty good. It's just that Ravindra has been around for so long that you can't look past him. You've given him opportunity. You've prepared him for better times. So maybe that's probably the only reason that he's ahead. But Akshar, every time he's got an opportunity, even in that Test series against England when he wasn't around, he's not been left behind in bowling ever. But I don't think they are even comparable when it comes to batting. Akshar, I would just think, can hold the bat when you compare him to my namesake.
Fair point. But when it comes to batting firepower in the middle, and I'm talking the opposition now, you just could see the reason why they had to rely so much on Guptill, because the middle order yet again were found wanting. This time even Mitchell didn't fire. Chapman had one good innings. Today he had a brain fade, jumped out when he shouldn't have. Glenn Phillips playing a shot again when he shouldn't have. And they just didn't look to have that rock, DK, that is present when a certain Kane Williamson is out there in the middle.
Oh, yes. I think Kane Williamson and Devon Conway are key players for this New Zealand batting. And without them, the batting looks rather barren. I'm just imagining if India were in New Zealand's place, all hell would have broken loose. Lose a series 3-0, middle order not firing, half the team would have been with their heads on the chopping block. But New Zealand, being the team that they are, very limited resources, you go on to the next series and they'll pretty much play the same set of players, and you'll be amazed the kind of results they produce when they go on from there to play a multi-nation tournament. So that's the beauty of the two countries. The pressures for two countries very, very different. In this occasion, I think New Zealand will be very well aware that their middle order batsmen didn't really stand out throughout the series, though they were given a lot of opportunities to do well.
It's straight out of left field, Ajay, but I'm thinking in a situation like this, even someone like a Ross Taylor, who of course is much more a test player, but we've seen what he's capable of in the limited form of the game. He does play in franchise cricket in T20 league. So even someone like him, if New Zealand were to look for at some point in time, as and when Williamson does come back, wouldn't be the worst option for them to have some solidity in that middle order.
Yeah, I mean, Ross Taylor is a good player. He's been around for really long. If they left him out, there must be a reason. I mean, I don't know. I don't follow New Zealand cricket that much. But to be, if I was looking to change that side, they've just come back from a World Cup. I mean, we didn't make it to that quarters or semi or final. They lost in the finals. They've, made it all the way to the finals. And they've taken this series as a rest. I mean, main players have been left out. But if they still worry, Ross Taylor, I mean, is a player. He's always, he's actually one of those dangerous players that bowlers would fear more. Whether he comes off or not is a different story, but you'd probably have a 10-15 minute meeting about him, where to bowl. He'll pick everything on the onside. On his day, he was a lethal player. I think it's times just passed and New Zealand's probably said goodbye to him, at least in this format of the game. Otherwise, he's too good a player not to be on a tour.
Yep, just listening to or trying to eavesdrop on Rahul Dravid at the end, did feel DK for the opposition, coming off a final, just playing a World Cup final, getting on a plane, starting a new series, trying to hype yourself up after being on the wrong end of the result over there. So obviously that was one factor. But from India's point of view, Dravid saying, yes, very satisfying in terms of obviously the kind of things we've talked about, ticking enough boxes.
I think obviously Rahul Dravid is spot on there. I think losing a World Cup final, having a break of a couple of days and then playing 3 T20s in 5 days in 3 different states in India is hard work. And you can't obviously fault the New Zealanders. I think as we had spoken, they're probably a little tired. The body's a little worn, and they're probably halfway to New Zealand mentally as well. So, you can't fault them. It's completely okay. And they tried their best, but just not good enough against a strong Indian team. And when it comes to India, as Ajay and all of us discussed here, I think a pretty convincing victory. I think 3 games, 3 different challenges. The first one was the closest one, but after that, I don't think they look back. I think the Indian team showing their might and showing why they're so good in bilaterals. I think pretty much a very, very tough side to beat in home conditions. Irrespective of whether they bat first or bowl first, they're a really good team and they're an all-round team. And you could see why we are such a formidable team, in our own backyard.
Just a final thought from Rahul. I'll get Ajay in on this. Good series win. Everyone played. Again, that was key. We talked about it at the start. Pleasant start. Not easy for New Zealand to turn up. But what he talked about is for India, it's nice to see we've got options. We can mix and match. It'll be a long season leading up to the next World Cup. Nice to have different options and people doing well. So the one thing, I mean, at least I can read from there is he's not trying to hide by saying, listen, let's take it one match at a time. What World Cup? Who's talking about a World Cup? It's fair enough. It's a year away and there's no reason to be shying away from saying this was step one.
Well, fair enough. I mean, because he has been just appointed. And the only reason you appoint a coach is, his thought. It's not that he comes overnight and you start winning or losing. The credit or this credit should go to them. If you brought him in, then you got to go by what he believes and what he thinks. And if he's working towards it, looking at every game as, preparing for that World Cup, then, that's the way we need to go with him. Because, at the end of the day, he's our coach, he's our captain. And all of us will have opinions, this is how we should prepare or this is how we should play. But at the end of the day, it's the captain and the coach who are appointed guys. What are they thinking and what is it that they want to do? And it's nice to see Rahul's come out clear and he's made it very clear that he's going to be looking at all these bilaterals as, getting ready for the World Cup. And so, if he's preparing for it, yes, he's, already got something out of it on this trip. You got Venkatesh Iyer, who, everybody knows his opening batting skill. So he can always open if you want a third opener in that side. He can be along with you. He can bat at 6 and he's now showed you that he can bowl as well. So, I mean, I look at it that way. If that's the way we're preparing to go ahead, then when you found the guy, keep using them. And, I think it's too early. I mean, for any coach, and I always believe a good coach or a bad coach, I mean, in this format of the thing, is judged by numbers. Somebody's won games. A coach should be judged after he leaves. What happens with that team? Because, it takes time for a coach to bring in a culture, bring in a thought process towards the end of his career or when he's left. When he's arrived, first 3 days here, luckily, Jams had a good start. He's won 3, so nobody will get after him. But if it was such a magical thing a coach could do, then it would be coaches and not players. So I always believe a coach's reflection we will see in about 6 months' time how the team's thinking, or a captain's reflection. It takes a little while. I will wait for a while and see, but I will go along with Jam. If he's got a belief, he will certainly stick by it. And he's you can't find a better person in dedication and determination. These are two things that you can make sure that he will instill in this side. So I'll wait and enjoy when he puts all that in also.
And we also got the bonus of maybe 7 extra smiles from him than we would have normally got. I'm sure there were people keeping track of that. We love Rahul Dravid, and we love him more when he just gives us that. It's almost as if you're waiting for it. And today we had a few of them, even when there was that little bit of a misfielding from Ishan Kishan. The ball before that, everyone had been talking up the fielding coach, Dilip, and he was sitting next to Rahul Dravid. And next ball, the ball goes past Ishan Kishan. He still had a smile on his face. So it's always good to see that they're working for various things. What about skipper Rohit Sharma? We've talked about Rahul Dravid. What is it that Rohit Sharma had to say? And we've got this particular quote to work with from Rohit Sharma. The way forward for Team India. I think we just need to set the template right, and we've got some time to do that. There are little holes we need to fill. This will be our biggest challenge. I'm not going to say that we want to follow certain teams' templates. We just have to follow and create our own template and what is best for our team. Now, let me just clarify. This was said at the start of the series, DK. And you'd have to say that sticking to that, some of those holes have started getting filled. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves.
Yes, I think definitely. I think India is going in the right direction. I think, they're two clever leaders, Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma. Is very sure about what they want. I think they'll make a lovely marriage together because they both have their heart in the right places and want to take Indian cricket in the right direction. Give them time, like Ajay Bhai said, bang on. Give them 6 months, 8 months, and then we will see how well the hole has been filled. Right now, if you do it, it'll be like putting Fevikwik in a small hole. It's not going to really help. But, you give it some time, and I'm sure they will definitely address the issues like getting the 6th bowler in, making sure who our openers are, what our middle order is, who's our death bowler, who's going to bowl up top, who's our backup spinner. All those questions, slowly but steadily, will definitely get answered. And I think both of them have a very calm head on their shoulders, and they will definitely strive to move in the right direction with Team India.
Interesting analogy there, Ajay. I thought it was not just something he pulled out of a hat, did Dinesh Karthik, because it's something we often talk about. We don't want quick fixes. So it probably echoes what you said earlier.
Yeah, we don't want here. I mean, at least this group seems to be somebody who doesn't want, but the majority of this country wants that. Now we've had 3-0, so we're all going to celebrate. And also, so that's a quick fix as well. Whether they are good or not, if they've already become good, that's a quick fix, right? So I'm totally with him. And he's, because you need quick fixes at a time when you're on the run, you're in a tournament, something goes wrong. That's a different story. But when you've got a lead up time and you've just had a change of regime, and in this case, you've had both, your captain's gone, your coach is gone, your bowling coach is gone. People don't give credit, but I think, for me, the biggest coach that we've had in the system is Bharat Arun. I mean, imagine Indian cricket before Bharat Arun. I don't know whether he brought all these guys in or whatever he did. Now, if I go by stats, where before he came in, India was, how many pace bowler team? Now, by the time he's gone, you've got so many. So that is what I look from a coach at this level, because at this level, tactically, these guys know what they are doing. I've wavered away. I went to Bharat Arun. What was the question? Sorry, Gautam.
Quick fixes and quick fixes and therefore the long term.
So a long-term coach is somebody who makes a difference to the team or a thought process of a team and a whole culture into the team. So, and Rahul Dravid is a tried and tested guy. Rohit Sharma is a tried and tested guy. These are people that you don't have to wait and see, oh, what are we going to get? You will get exactly what you've seen for the last 10, 15 years. And that's why they've been brought in. I don't know about Rohit, suddenly there was a call, but with Rahul coming, that is exactly why you brought him. And he's worked with the junior players, he's played himself, and you want to bring that calmness and solidity into that team. And that's probably the reason you brought him. So he will deliver that. There is no doubt in my mind. Whether this arranged marriage works for more than 6 months or not, that's my only worry.
But what we also have, whether all of you out there want a quick fix or don't, we know all of you like to get involved. We know all of you like to send in your questions, and we encourage that. That's why we have our hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live section. We've got a lot of questions. We decided for this particular show to pick one specific question, which we found more relevant than the others. And let's have a look at this from Shashwat Tandon. In the next 2 years, we have a T20 World Cup, a 50-over World Cup, and the World Test Championship. Should India look at format specialists and build 2 separate teams? Now, we've seen certain countries around the world have done that. They've pretty much segregated it. I think England were one of the teams who took a lead in that direction. DK, what's your thoughts on this?
I've been echoing it for some time now. It's completely right. And I think teams should have some 2 format specialists, white ball specialists and red ball specialists. Like let's take an example of Pujara. I mean, I think you need to obviously give him a good contract. He's been a proper servant for Indian cricket, in Test cricket for a long time now, and he's really good at what he does. And you make sure that you give him the confidence, irrespective of whatever happens in white ball cricket. He is the man to go to in Test cricket, and I think that is good. I think people respect that. People become very secure, and they're very sure of what they do, and they're very clear about their role in that format. And they don't constantly just try and peep ahead and see if they can get an opportunity in white ball if they do well in Test cricket and add more pressure to themselves. They're going to be red ball specialists, and they're going to be taken care of as red ball players. And, they're expected to deliver every time India goes abroad or in India in Test cricket. And I think it's very good to have the, multi-format specialists, so that also it gives time for players to rest, recuperate, be fresh, and give themselves the best chance of doing well in international cricket, which can be very grueling, especially with the bubbles in place. So I do think having multi-format specialists and, making it very, very clear which player is looked at and which format will obviously ease things. And if I'm right, Rahul Dravid himself has said that is what he's looking to do, which is very good and a very healthy sign for Indian cricket, because you've got to remember, for the first time, we're going to have staggered captaincy, for white ball cricket. It could be Rohit Sharma, and for red ball, it could be Virat Kohli. So, I mean, I know Virat Kohli is still the ODI captain, but anyway, for the moment. So there is going to be 2 different captains, and it's probably happening for the first time. Generally, we always have a single format captain. So when captaincy can, obviously be given to specialists, I do think even the players can be treated the same way, and it's very good for the health of Indian cricket.
The one rider I'll put to this, and I'll throw this at you, Ajay, is while conceptually it's fantastic, but executionally, you might face some challenges, because obviously you have, say, a Virat Kohli who walks into all formats equally. So then you've got to balance those particular players and maybe prioritize them in certain series, rest them for certain in one format or the other, and make sure that they're absolutely prioritized in one direction.
Yes, I mean, it's a way of looking at it. The other, practically, I'm now just thinking how it can function and how it can work. I think it'll have to come from the player himself or players themselves. Because if the organization or the board or the coach or the captain tells me or ex-player saying, listen, you are only good for one-day cricket or you are only good for Test cricket, in a way, the job that you have in hand is to add to somebody who's in your team, either as a captain or as a coach. You're trying to say, listen, you can't do this. So I'm saying it'll work. It can work on the other side. Practically, yes. Professionally, I can understand. If the players can make that decision, and it's a very tough one for a player. Players sometimes, I mean, I can talk for myself. At times you feel, yes, I should be in this team also. I can do this. I can't do that. So if the players get to this frame of mind, the modern day players who are around, and now with IPL, it's a possibility that there can be a lot of players who can just say, yes, I will not be available for 4-day cricket, or on the other side, like he mentioned about Cheteshwar Pujara, I won't be available for 1-day cricket. Because, Cheteshwar Pujara wants to play. He wants to get better. He wants to play for India. I mean, there's an SPL, Saurashtra Premier League. 20 over game. He still comes out there, plays, wins games. He's wanting to do well. So I think it is a very tough one for a board in this case. Not that I have any love for the board, and I'm not a board or selectors or coaches. But from the administrative point of view, their job is to make you better and make sure that you don't start thinking smaller. In fact, you should be thinking bigger, and that's what their job is. So I think if it has to happen, it has to be the players. The players need to come out and put their hand up and say, it's like how you are either available for auction or not. I think when they start doing that, then that what DK said is absolutely correct, because then it'll be clear mind. You might have different practices then. You might be traveling different. You might just have different clothes then. So you will you see the distinction between them. But from the point of view of the board, for board to tell you, no, you can't play 2020, you can't play one-day cricket, I think that's an unfair call from them. Anyway, they select you or they drop you. So why, so it's the player's right to say whether I'm available or not. That can only change. Till now, it's still, if Virat Kohli is not picked for 2020, is there anything Virat Kohli can do?
Fair point. But yeah, I think I've got both points of view, and we can really take this forward. But for the moment, we already know there's a quick change in format from the shortest to the longest, not the absolute shortest. We're not talking T10 at the moment, but from T20 to Test cricket is where we are moving. 3-0 to India in 3 T20I series. We off to Kanpur for the first of 2 Test matches, finishing off at the Wankhede Stadium on December the 3rd. So it's a quick turnaround, DK. As we go forward to this, the first thing you look at, and we've already mentioned this, change of captain. Yes, there's going to be Ajinkya Rahane for that first Test match. But going forward in not white ball cricket, in white jersey cricket, it's going to be the Kohli-Dravid marriage. So we've already talked about the Rohit-Dravid relationship. Now they also need to develop a little rapport between Virat Kohli and Rahul Dravid when it comes to Test match cricket.
Yes, I think obviously we all know they're very, very different personalities. Obviously, I'm sure at the end of the day, they know each other. They've been around in Indian cricket for way too long, and obviously they understand each other. They understand that they're very different personalities. But when it comes to the team and when it comes to taking Test cricket forward, I think Indian cricket in Test cricket is in a very, very healthy place. So I'm very, very sure they will understand each other and figure out what works for the team and what works for themselves, for both of them as a couple, and find out what's the right way to take Indian team forward. Again, that's an arranged marriage, as Ajay Bhai would say, and it is something that will take its time, but definitely I think at the end of the day, both of them have their heart in the right places, especially when it comes to Test cricket, and both of them love Test cricket. So I am sure they will be looking in deep detail as to what they can do to take Indian cricket one step further, which is to win that World Test Championship final as well. And like the question we got, we have a T20 World Cup, we have a ODI World Cup, and soon followed by a World Test Championship as well. So there is a lot that's happening in the horizon. So every Test series becomes important, starting with the first one that's happening after the England series, obviously the one against New Zealand. So I do think they'll figure out what's the best way to move forward. For the first is obviously we have Ajinkya Rahane, who's done a very good job in the interim time that he's been a captain. But soon Virat Kohli will come in, and that will be interesting to watch as well. They have a South African series to follow soon after that. So some interesting times even in the Test format for Indian team. But we all know that Kohli and Dravid both love Test cricket and will do everything to take Indian Test cricket to greater heights.
Ajay, that's the coach and captain relationship. But from the players, and you'll obviously have common players across formats for the moment, there's also a bit of adapting to different styles of captaincy. I mean, you're playing under Rohit one day, a week later you're playing under Virat Kohli. In this case, under Rahane, then under Kohli. So it's up to the players as well to adapt these different styles of captaincy.
Absolutely, it's a tough time for an Indian player, in that sense, because your captain leads the way. There's an atmosphere in the dressing room that each captain has differently in the ground. Punching of the air, certain captains just smiling, calm. So as a player, unless you are just being natural and you're not being pleasing, trying to please each captain, whoever's around, then it's fine. You just stay how you are and you carry on. But, for players who were, there and about, when you're in and out of the side, you've got to be coach. You've got, you're impressing your coach, you're impressing your captain. You want to be part of the whole bandwagon. So I feel, in that sense, next couple of months are going to be next 4-5 months once you come back from South Africa, when you would have had, we've had Rohit and Dravid, the first marriage that I said, arranged marriage. Now, in the arranged marriage, you can have many girlfriends. It might still work. But in a love marriage, you never have girlfriends. So in this case, Rahane is going to come, and then they're going to go to Virat with him. So by the time we come back from New Year's Eve, or honeymoon back from South Africa, you would then be able to really see if, in my way, if Jam is the leader of the team shouldn't have a problem. But if each captain is the leader, then team will be in trouble in 6 months' time. It's as simple as that, because players can't keep moving every day, playing differently. So if the coach is leading the side and he's setting up a system to play, then players will go through. But if the players have to change every captain, how they want to play and how everything's changing, for guys who are at the fringe, it gets a little tough for them. And when you're trying to build a culture, it's about the guys at the fringe. The ones who are really at the top or really at the bottom, they're fine. It's the guys who really make the difference of, when it's tight, when its situations become tougher, when you need that, a little help from left, right. That's so with so many of them around. We were talking about 2 captains here. We have 4. DK, how do you deal with 4 captains, man? Within 2 months, you're going to have 4 guys, say Akshar Patel playing with Rohit Sharma today, then Rahane will want him to bowl differently, and he's not playing. Not in literal terms. I'm finding it crazy. This is a time when Indian team has been number 1 in the world, and this is a time when we've just had 1 bad World Cup. But if we are still not sure who's going to lead India in the future, there's something somewhere going wrong. Either it's all ad hoc that's happened in the last 2-3 months. It's definitely not been thought of, because if you were looking forward and going ahead, you would have been sure of who you were going to have. With these 4 names that you got, then you're waiting for somebody to do well. Whoever does well, he will carry on. That's, for me, that doesn't sound very good. I know DK is playing. He can't, I don't want him to talk about that. Leave that. It's not a question for you.
Fair enough. We'll leave it outside the off stump for now. But I think one thing to sum it all up is that the common factor, whether you like it or not, is going to be Rahul Dravid. And I think that is going to make a difference going forward. It's about Dravid to the players via the captain. The captain changes for format reasons. It's about adapting to that. But for the moment, what India do need to address is playing Test cricket against a team to whom they finished second best in the World Test Championship final. Yes, vastly different conditions. It's been a while. And certainly on home conditions, DK, India will be looking to at least set that record straight as the first step towards that next WTC final.
No doubt about it. I think they'll be very keen to play this test match. Rahul Dravid's first test match as a coach. So it'll be very interesting. But I have no doubt, I'm pretty sure that, knowing our spin department and the amount of riches that is there, and it'll be very, very interesting to see the type of wickets that we choose to play. And I don't think it'll be something that's completely in aid of spinners as well. Yes, there'll be some help for the spinners, and I'm sure they can get maximum purchase. But you will see that everybody is given an equal opportunity, the fast bowlers and the spinners. So some interesting times for Team India as well. And I'm pretty sure the series should go in favor of India if they play to their potential.
And the first thing you notice when you have a look at that squad, and we'll put it back up there, is the amount of different names you're seeing. We've already seen a 3-0 series victory. Yes, of course, a few names are missing. Kohli's still missing from this first particular test squad, but Jasprit Bumrah as well, not there. But Ajay, so many different names. It just shows the depth in Indian cricket, and the fact that one of the discussions we had about specialists in different formats can actually work only when you've got this depth.
Yeah, certainly. There's no doubt that there is depth in all these players. I may sound sometimes about somebody in a joking way, but they're all talented players. There's no doubt about it. So there is enough enough quality that you have in India. But that doesn't mean that you keep rotating them. I didn't see Rishabh Pant in there. Is he not part of that test team now?
No, he's taken a break. He's given.
He's also taking a break at 21. So, then it's about breaks. So then it's whoever gets an opportunity should make the most of it.
Yep, fair point. But
Because then how do you know who's going to play next series? How do you know? So it's difficult to analyze them.
But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, age apart, he has been on the road for quite a while, and I think everyone's trying to assess the travels, the bubble life, all of that, to try and look at the Ajinkya Rahane's, the Mayank Agarwal's, the Ridhiman Saha's, and various other players that we saw in there. DK, people like Prasidh Krishna now coming in.
Did I miss Bihari as well in there?
Yeah, he's not there. He's part of the India A team.
Because poor guy, I mean, he did well. I mean, this is how some players who are on the fringe just disappear then. And that puts pressure on the new guy. So I don't see Vihari, one of those guys who was been with Indian cricket for a while, done well. Shubham Gill there. Mayank Agarwal, thankfully, is there. Who's not there? Prithvi Shaw, Shubham Gill? Gill's there.
Prithvi Shaw not in this particular squad, but yeah, Shaw is.
So
also
there's so
one of
much
the guys
talent. Sorry, I just I'm saying anybody who you've had in your side, played with them, if they've not had enough cricket and if they've not been touring, then like Vihari is a guy that I see, poor fellow. I mean, what has he done wrong? Why should he go to India tour? Why can't he play a test match at home?
Yeah, well, India A are...
Or don't send him on A tour also, because I'm not saying you have to play everybody. If the selectors or the coach or the captain feel that this fellow is not, he's done and over, fine. But somebody who's been in the team now goes to India A tour and some new guy comes in here, that's messing with people's minds. And I don't know. I'm getting emotional about certain players these days.
But yeah, at least we need to keep it for those who are looking at that and looking at the possible blanks over there. It is all the names you might possibly think of who are not in that test match squad to play the home series will be in the India A squad heading to South Africa. And India, of course, have the tour coming up there as well. So plenty of cricket coming up, plenty of opportunities, and yet plenty of room for a little bit of emotion to be mixed with everything else. But when we have a look ahead to the opposition, New Zealand too will have a few different names we can throw in there. And Trent Bolt is the one who's taking a break. But first and foremost, Kane Williamson leading the way. And that's when you look at some of New Zealand's test specialists and Tom Blundell, Tom Latham, Henry Nicholls, Ajaz Patel, Neil Wagner. A lot of these names, DK, who are, again, it's not just India. Even New Zealand, with their limited resources, are able to put almost two different teams on the park at times.
Yeah, you can see quite a few new names there. Some old ones like Ross Taylor, Tom Latham, Henry Nicholls, Neil Wagner. These are all test specialists, and they seem to play only this format. So you can see how a lot of teams which are obviously doing well in multi-nation tournaments having single format players, so to say, and you can see a completely different New Zealand team as well. But they're a very strong team, as we have seen, in the World Test Championship final. They're the team to beat. They've done really well over a period of time. And I don't think for any reason they should ever be called underdogs for some time now. They're a very solid team. They're packed with some really skilled players. And you can see they will definitely do their best to put up a massive show in India. And Kanpur will be a massive test for them. The last time they played there, they got blown away by Ashwin. So it'll be very interesting to see how they turn up in Kanpur and, showcase their skills.
Yeah, I mean, Ajay, you asked the question. We'd be interested to see what sort of wickets they play on. Should really be a no-brainer in terms of what you'd play against New Zealand. We saw what happened in English conditions, neutral conditions against New Zealand, World Test Championship, 2019 World Cup, even in the 50-over white ball format. So you're not going to really give them anything that's close to their strength, are you?
Even if you try, you can't make one like that, in England. So I don't expect anything but the turners that we've seen. Maybe things change, captain and coach change, because they have a very important role when they try and get a pitch, or whether the board allows you to have a pitch like that. Last few series we saw against England were 2-day games, test matches, wickets. They were totally not test match like wickets. One off can happen, but we've had those in the last few series, so I don't expect anything different. I think you'll still get a Turner or something that anyway, Kanpur doesn't bounce much, so it'll be a turner, and it'll be New Zealand will have to come out and they will be tested with their skills how to play spin. Totally opposite from what happened in England, and I have no doubts that India will send them back packed and 2-0 up.
Yeah, something tells me, with no disrespect meant, that one of the names in that New Zealand squad lineup, Glenn Phillips, may not quite be pushed into that 11 at least in Kanpur, but that's just me. They've got enough options in that squad to get in there. We, of course, will be there with Cricbuzz chatter, as we tend to be for test matches. It's a very different format from how we do this. This is going to be either Zahir Khan or Pragyan Ojha, keeping Mr. Tiwari company. Match analysis at lunchtime, at tea time, and at stumps. So don't forget to miss out on Cricbuzz chatter. And of course, at the end of the day, we're going to give you a day's review with one of the men present in the studio here, Dinesh Karthik, with the New Zealand perspective coming from our good friend Simon Dool. Yes, indeed. DK and Dooley will get together at the end of the day for their perspective during the test matches. The other question we haven't answered, of course, at the start of this match, which was the first non-half volley dished out by Joy Bhattacharya in this series. Let's remind you of the question, today's Joy Factor question, and we like little complex questions. If this cricketer played his first international match at Brisbane, his last at Birmingham, the same year, how many international cricketers or centuries did his father score? Complex question, DK, any ideas?
Oh, I not even a clue. I didn't even try because I was nowhere near even the first 10% of the question.
Yeah, which is the way we like it. The first two are far too simple. So Brisbane, Birmingham, father, centuries, answer, here it comes. The person we're talking about is Sunil Gavaskar, and the answer is 35 centuries. That little hint we gave was the career of Rohan Gavaskar, which we gave you the start and the finish in terms of the venues. Debut at the Gabba, finished up at Edgbaston, and of course the number you had to find was 35 for Sunil Gavaskar. Who got that? Who's the first to answer that? Do we have another new name in here? And Sarangarajan, I believe, has answered one before. I think he has. But either if you have or you haven't, it doesn't matter. Welcome to the family, Saranga06. We like to have newer and newer, all of you answering questions on hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Thank you, Joy, for that. And I think the one image that I was delighted with as we were chatting was seeing the trophy as the champions board was put up, gentlemen. And it was in the hands of Harshal Patel and Venkatesh Iyer. And typical Rohit Sharma style, where was he? Somewhere in the corner. You couldn't even see him, Ajay.
Yeah, and that's Rohit Sharma for you. Over the years, he's won many trophies, and that's what we've got to see. And it's a nice moment for Venkatesh Iyer, Harshal Patel, especially Harshal Patel. That man's toiled really hard for many, many years, spent a lot of time in Lali. So it's a nice finish at the end. He's got an opportunity to play for India, wins the man of the match, game one, gets to lift the trophy. Venkatesh Iyer has come from not from nowhere. People who've been watching domestic knew exactly, but when in IPL he comes, changes the fortunes of certain team, and then now here bowls, and what India has been looking for many years, a batsman who can bowl. So perfect two guys to have held that trophy and enjoyed it. I wish them luck, and both of them may have a long career, because they're both people who can make a difference to a game. They're match winners, or they can change the trend of the game. They're not just guys who will go out there and collect numbers. They're match winners. So if they do well, India will be doing well.
Well, that was a nice touch for them to finish with. Rohit Sharma, of course, player of the series. Akshar Patel was player of the match. Dinesh Karthik, we'll see all of you. We'll see you very soon on at the end of the day with Simon Dool. Ajay, thank you very much. We should catch up very soon somewhere.
Thank you, both of you. No, I'll be watching both of you, and at the end of the game. But thank you. It's been a pleasure, DK especially, learning so much, and so much that I learned on these three matches is how game is changing, and so we need to keep changing as well. And it's always a pleasure to be with you, Gautam. Thank you both.
Thanks a lot, Ajay. Very kind of you, and I think I think make it look like you don't understand, but you understand the game far more than a lot of other people. You have a very sharp mind, and you can see the way you think is very, very futuristic in many ways.
You got to make a living thinking these days.
May this party long continue. It's wonderful to keep these conversations going. And to all of you, of course, who join in, listen in, send in your questions, and stay part of the family, we continue to thank you. From all of us, from Ajay Jadeja, Dinesh Karthik, the entire team at Cricbuzz Live at the end of this T20 International Series, I'm Gautam Bhimani saying good night.